Hi, everybody. My name's Barbara Cooper, and thank you for joining us at the Fidalgo Democrats tonight, our Zoom meeting. And I'm the chair of the Fidalgo Democrats. And what I would like to do is start the meeting with an acknowledgement, and Maggie Collingy is going to read it for us. Maggie, could you do that? Can we unmute her?
I'm unmuted.
Wonderful.
The Fidalgo Democrats acknowledge that we gather on Indigenous land, the traditional territory of the Coast Salish peoples, especially the Samish, Indian past, present, and future.
Okay, thank you so much. I just wanted to say a couple of things. We're an independent democratic association, and our focus is on education. And I would like to know if there's any elected officials here tonight or any Democratic Party officials. If you are, if you could let me raise hand button and we can acknowledge you. We want to make sure we let everybody have, if we have anybody here that's either elected or a Democratic official, do we? Hi. Okay. I see Warren. You want to say hi, Warren? And I see Carolyn.
Hello, everybody. Looking forward to an interesting meeting. And for those of you who are wondering what I'm elected to, I'm one of the hospital commissioners here, Summit Island Hospital. So.
Thank you for coming, Warren. Appreciate it. Carolyn?
Hey. Hi there. I'm Carolyn Moulton. I am an Anacortes City Council member at large and glad to be here. Thanks.
Oh, thank you so much for coming. All right. Is there anyone else that I might have missed? And thank everybody else. The topic of the meeting is Evergreen Islands, the legacy of environmental. Colleen Finley, who is the president of Evergreen, are the status of a couple of things: the gravel mine permit proposal for South Fidalgo Island, and proposals treating wetlands and streams, and the Evergreen Islands plans for the future. But before I introduce Marlene, we're going to, as you can see, what we're going to do is mute people and then unmute them as we need them to, talking, so there won't be too much chaos with background noise. I'd like to introduce the steering committee. Again, I'm going to mention the names, and maybe if people want to raise their hand, that would be great. The first person is Corrine, who a lot of you know, of course. She's been our fearless leader for years, and she's on here. And then Rita Sullivan, Jeff Mount, Valit Safitan, Rosemary Stevens, Sarah Peterson isn't here tonight. I don't see her. She was on earlier, so I assume she'll come on back. And Maggie is on our program committee. So that are the wonderful people that help make all this happen. So thank you all very much. One other thing just to mention, in January, we sent out a questionnaire to a lot of the Fidalgo Democrats, and we got about 50 responses, which was pretty impressive, really. And I just wanted to let you know what the responses were. I'll go through it pretty quickly, but it was really fun to see what people thought. One thing we noticed that our attendance had dropped because of being on Zoom is what we assume. And we got responses. People don't want to Zoom. They're on Zoom overload. They don't like Zoom meetings. It conflicts with some other meetings. The one good thing is that people said they were looking at the meetings on YouTube, and just generally, sometimes people just said they forgot. That makes sense. A couple of people had problems with logging on. Most people managed to kind of figure it out. And so we have Brad here, who's wonderful and has been helping people. So if you have any problems, just let me know or let him know. We talked about streaming and most people weren't interested. We asked people about other times that would be more convenient. Right now, there was several, go on Monday, Friday, Wednesday, it's just a variety of things, have meetings during the day, start later at 8 o'clock. One of the things is that right now we're sticking with the schedule we've always had. We have no idea what's going to happen once the library reopens, so be aware of that. Taking any requests at this point because they don't know when they're going to reopen. So there were lots and lots of suggestions. People said they found the meetings interesting. I could quickly go through them. There were so many suggestions: the carbon footprint, racial inequality in Skagit, COVID, how do we talk to Republicans, discussions with the candidates, growler opposition, national and state issues, what we want to talk about that our community relates to that, the Biden transition team, land use, public health, history of the Electoral College, the 28th Amendment group, party officials, see if they, or elected officials, if they have issues that they wanted to talk about, 40th legislative issues, law enforcement. One person suggested that we reach out more to Republicans. We tend not to do that. So those were some of the suggestions, and they keep coming in. Suggestions to improve the meeting, keep the energy going, keep it to about an hour to an hour and a half. And a couple of people said they were interested in joining the steering committee. That's Shay and Sarah. And they both have joined. So we've been very lucky with that. And Maggie said she was interested in the program committee, so she joined. So it was like, yay, we got some new folks. That was terrific. The last thing was about the news bulletin. Did you think it has value? We got all positive responses about that. Only one person didn't know what it was. And one person said he likes the newsletter, but he certainly understands how much work it is. And that she, that was something that she put together with local, national, state information. So Corinne, do you want to talk about that? You had mentioned that you'd like to add to that. Corinne? Does anybody see Corinne?
Now? Can you hear me now?
Yeah,
okay.
We can hear you now.
Yes, I wanted to find out how many people read the newsletter and how they liked it, and just the questions that Barbara just mentioned. And then we got all this really positive response, but I didn't know what to do. I had a difficult time deciding whether to continue writing the newsletter or not. There's so many wonderful replies that I felt obliged, and I didn't want to disappoint the readers. I had strong reasons to continue, but there were also strong reasons of educating Democrats and nudging them in a progressive direction. But keep up with what's going on, to be writing it and thinking about it all the time. But on the other hand, I was spending too much time on the computer, and I need to reduce better. And I've been developing memory problems, so I've decided to quit while I'm ahead, while the newsletter is still high quality. So if there's someone else who would like to take it over, you can contact me or Barbara. You can just reply to the meeting invitation, or Barbara's phone number is on it. I would be grateful if somebody wants to take it over. Meanwhile, thanks so much for your really helpful and positive replies.
Yes, thank you, Karina. It's a wonderful newsletter. And if anyone, like I said, please feel free to contact either of us to talk about it. Corinne can help you walk through it if somebody would like to take that on. It's really was just invaluable to get all kinds of information. I did want to let everybody know this is being recorded and we will have a YouTube video. Zane will be doing that. He puts that together for us. And so for people who missed the meeting, Zane Butler will make a YouTube video. And with that, I'm looking at my list. It looks like we have, we've covered a bunch of different things, and I have some things I'll mention at the end of the meeting, but now I'd like to end Finley. And I'm going to read a little information about her before we have her start the meeting. This is Evergreen Islands. The topic is the legacy of the environmental protection continues. And for over 4 decades, Evergreen's saltwater island environments. Among the many actions they've promoted are blocking an aluminum smelter on Guimas Island, stopping a water bottling plant at the base of Mount Erie, keeping xylene barges out of the channel, and protecting the ship harbor wetlands. Today, Evergreen Islands continues to build upon that legacy of environmental advocacy. Please join us tonight at Evergreen Islands Board President Marlene Finley shares the status of the gravel mine permit proposal for South Fidalgo Island, the latest subdivision proposals threatening local wetlands and streams, and Evergreen Islands plans for the future. And a little about Marlene. After serving on the Evergreen Islands Board of Directors for 3 years, Marlene has been elected president. While relatively new to Anacortes, her long career was spent in the West, where she served as a National Forest Park Service Manager and County Parks Director. We wish her well in the continuing work to defend the environmental health of the Northwest. So, thank you, Marlene. So glad that you're here and so glad you're doing what you're doing. And I think turn the meeting over to you now and have you continue on.
Great. Thanks a lot, Barbara. I'm going to share my screen. I have some slides to show you. But before we start, I just wanted to pose some questions to think about through the presentation tonight. What are you doing to protect, promote, and defend the local environment? What are the possibilities, and what can you do to make a difference? So some things to think about, and you'll see through the presentation, you've probably been involved in some of these issues. So with that, I'm going to share my screen, and welcome to my living room. There. Bring up. Can you see my screen? Can you see my PowerPoint?
No.
I think you have to click on it.
Okay.
When you say share screen and then click on it, maybe.
Yeah, it didn't come up, just my
Maybe Brad.
Do you
can
have
help.
permission? Did they give you permission?
Yes, we did, Bert. Have you done screen sharing before in Zoom, Marlene?
I have, and I practiced it a lot. So we're going to try this again. I have it up. I'm going to bring up Zoom. I'm going to do share screen again. Now the tile
Perfect.
came up.
No,
Good.
yeah.
There we are. Okay.
We got it.
Here we go. So Evergreen Islands, 44 years of Evergreen Island history. And before we jump into some of the issues we're working on, I just wanted to share a little bit. I am new to Anacortes, and I've lived here for 4 years now. There's so many of you that know so much more than I do, and I'm humbled by all you've done and all you're doing and your knowledge of the area. Often when I tell people of my career, over almost 40 years, people ask me what place stands out the most. And so one of the things that I've noticed is that I developed a real affinity for islands. And one of the islands that I worked on was a wilderness island off the Georgia coast where I lived for 6 years, Cumberland Island National Seashore, a magical place. And what I've learned, and now that while Cumberland Island's a nice place to visit, I love living on Fidalgo Island, and this is the place I want to be. And you know, when you love a place, you really want to take care of it. And I think I know that's what brought me to Evergreen Islands. I found that I could do something to help our local environment and take care of this special place. And I get to work with these champions on the board of directors for Evergreen Islands. Many of our board members are here at the meeting tonight, and I'm glad to see you all joining. We also get to work with our attorney, our legal counsel, Kyle Loring, who's done a lot of great work for us and continues to. And Mary Ruth Holder has also been working on a special project as well. So Barbara mentioned some of the projects that Evergreen Islands has been working on or have over the years, such as the water bottling plant, also stopping a 1 million board feet clear cut on Mount Erie, stop the additional oil trains, and then that xylene proposal to make xylene at the Tesoro refinery and then ship it through the channel. We also work proactively. That is, we provide comment and advocate for laws, regulations, and policies that protect the environment. We work on things like the critical area ordinance, the shoreline master program, and much more. And our mission is to protect, defend, and promote these unique ecosystems in and around the Skagit County saltwater islands. And in doing that, we educate as well. That's an important part of our mission. Every week, members get the Salish snippets that Tom Glade produces. That's weekly news clips on the local environment, as well as action alerts.
Mute yourself. Oh. If I'm not muted, I notice, I wanted to interrupt you just for a minute, Marlene. Sure. Deborah Lackenoff looks like she just came in, and she is a representative for the 40th. So Deborah, would you like to say a few words or introduce yourself?
Yes, ma'am. Congratulations, Barbara. And I love what I'm here today. Sorry I'm so late. I love the idea and the goals, and the Salish clips are one of my favorites. So I'm happy to talk a little bit later, but my ears are open, my heart's open. And as I celebrate with my colleagues reaching the halfway point in the legislature, I'm happy I'm celebrating it tonight with you guys.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much for taking the time to come. I know how totally busy you are, so really appreciate it. After the presentation, if you would like to talk for a few minutes, I'd love to have you say what to share what you'd like to share with us. That would be perfect.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm here to learn with you. I'm here to learn with you. So no rush at all for me.
Oh, wonderful. All right. Thank you so much for taking the time. Really appreciate it.
Yes.
Okay. Thank you.
Okay, so the two current issues I wanted to share with you tonight are at the city level, it's the Hidden Shores planned unit development. It's a subdivision right at the turn of Marine Drive there, and we'll zoom in on a map a little better in a minute. And then at the county level, it's that expansion of the Lake Erie gravel mine in South Fidalgo. So let's jump into Hidden Shores. There's my pointer, good. So Hidden Shores is right here, right next to Skyline along Marine Drive here, right just past the Marine Heights subdivision. So we'll see that a little bit better in a minute. And then the gravel mine, Lake Erie gravel mines, right here at the junction of Campbell Lake Road, Rosaria Road, and Marine Drive. So let's take a closer look at where Hidden Shores is proposed. This is 2.6 acre parcel where the developer wants to put 10 houses. And this isn't a new proposal. We saw this in 2006. It was voted down unanimously in 2010 by the city council. It came back in 2014, and the 2014 proposal is what has came up for public comment just recently, about 4 or 5 months ago. So we're going to take a closer look tonight at this subdivision. You can see that it's forested. There's a mix of red alder, western red cedar, big leaf maple, sword fern, salmonberry. There's snags for pileated woodpeckers, which are a state candidate species. And what the planning staff with the city put forward is what's called an optional SEPA, that's Statewide Environmental Policy Act, DNS. That's a decision of non-significance, saying that it's not likely to impact the environment. And so comments were due the end of September, and Evergreen Island submitted comments. And let's see what the issues are to us. Well, there's 2 creeks that come down through the parcel, Clyde Creek and Anaco Burn. Both of these creeks are named as critical areas ordinances under the Fish and Wildlife Habitat Conservation Areas. So they're both protected, meaning that they should have 50-foot buffers on either side of the creek if any development's proposed. This is a plat map from the counties. That's the origin of this. So you can see where Marine Heights is. You can see where this is the 2.6 acre parcel. Not only are there 2 creeks that come through the parcel, there's also 9 wetlands in or adjacent to this 2.6 acres where they want to build 10 houses. So here's a city GIS map, and it shows Clyde Creek coming down and Anaco Burn. The blue big blobs are what are wetlands that are designated on the GIS map. And then since the critical areas report was done for the subdivision, they identified the consultants identified 7 wetlands within the parcel and 2 adjacent. Also, I want to mention that Clyde Creek and Anaco Burn are both considered potential fish streams, and Clyde Creek is listed for a potential for Chinook, pinks, and steelhead. This is the plat for the current proposal with the 10 units. And a few things I wanted to show you is this new road would be cut right at the corner of Marine Drive, Tyler Court, going up this way. The proposal is to put Anaco Burn in a culvert for 60 feet and then realign the creek for 120 feet. City code is to open up daylight sections of streams. And remember, once again, these are critical areas under the critical area ordinance. In the report done by the consultants, furthermore, it says the entire site may be considered a biodiversity corridor as defined by Washington Department of Fish and Wildlife Priority Habitat List. It lies within the city boundaries and contains a diversity of habitat features not commonly present in other vegetated areas within the city, and it provides a forested corridor that connects to the community forest. So what the proponent has here is 10-foot buffers proposed, not 50-foot like in the county ordinance, the city ordinance, the critical area ordinance, but 10-foot buffers. Then I also included this slide. This was the previous proposal that was voted down unanimously by city lawmakers. And here's the wetlands that I included this slide so you could see some of the wetland delineation. in channelizing the stream, realigning it, the proponent, the developer says that they're going to improve the natural stream. Also, they maintain that the stream is actually a ditch, and that's why it can be put in a culvert and have only 10-foot buffers. This is pictures from the site. And one more thing I wanted to mention is what happens when you develop on a wetland or even in general. When this occurs, the top organic matter is taken off the soil and the topsoil, and all those microorganisms that make that healthy soil that all you gardeners know about. So when that happens, you don't get the water retention on the landscape. It runs off. You get a lot more surface runoff. Also, nutrients run off as the ground is compacted during development. And so that's why people tend to use a lot of fertilizers and a lot of soil amendments on their developed lots. So you get a lot more runoff, surface runoff into the Salish Sea. Along with that, washout is pollutants. And in a class I've been taking from Washington State University on urban tree stewardship, they call it a hydrological drought, in that the water runs off so much that there isn't enough moisture left in the ground for native vegetation or landscaping. So you have to irrigate more. Also, nutrients are taken out. Another term that's used in this class I'm taking is what's called the urban stream syndrome. And that's when there's a lot of development, the pollutants are washed into the stream, into the creeks, and then out into the Salish Sea. And along with pollutants, you get a lot more sediment, and that's not good for salmon. So you can see a little bit more of this site. And remember, again, this is a corridor. It's connected up into the community forest. So it's potentially this biodiversity corridor, and it's good habitat for animals that need, and birds that need to go back and forth down to the ocean, to the salt water. So in conclusion, on Hidden Shores, Evergreen Islands believes this is a poor location, once again, for 10 residences, that the buffers, the protection along the streams need to be 50 feet, not 10 feet, and that we need to preserve priority trees. So the next project I wanted to bring to your attention is the expansion of the gravel mine, Lake Erie gravel mine. This is an existing gravel mine, a permit, 17 acres at the current time, and the landowner wants to expand it, triple it in size to 54 acres. That would be clear cutting 35 acres of land and digging it down 50 feet, removing as much as 3.2 million tons of gravel. And this is a 60-year permit. That would equate to as many as 26 truckloads per day of gravel along Rosario Road, Rosario Road, Campbell Lake Road, and Marine Drive. This is, and those trucks aren't going to be like the cute little blue dump truck you see in this picture. They're going to be probably those big double trailer gravel trucks that are 18 feet long. The process for permitting something like a gravel pit at the county is that the planning and development staff for the county review the permit. They review what's submitted for the SEPA, that's Statewide Environmental Policy Act environmental checklist, and then they provide a recommendation and staff report to the hearing examiner. The hearing examiner makes the decision. Well, in just a minute, I'll tell you where this decision went from there. But here's where the gravel pit. The trucks would go down Rosario Road, Campbell Lake Road, and Marine Drive. Here's a picture of the zoning for this part of South Fidalgo, and you can see the zoning map, but here there's a mineral resource overlay. And this was expanded as well as I can tell from the county records in 2016, although a map was changed in 2006, but I'm still trying to get the exact data when this mineral resource overlay was enlarged from the county. Mineral resource overlays are for are used to identify long-term commercially significant areas. And it's the county policy. This is from county website, is to designate these areas now and for the long term before encroachment of development precludes future designation. So that's what was done in 2016. And keep in mind, I didn't show a plat map, but there's a lot of residents all along here. The Del Mar community, the closest homes are 200 feet away from the pit.
Wow.
This is what now we're going to get into some of the some additional issues on this. A lot of the people in South Fidalgo like to refer to this area as the parklands because it draws, Deception Pass State Park draws as many as 2 million visitors a year. There's the Anacortes Community Forest, Sharp Park. There's also the Pacific Northwest Scenic Trail, a nationally designated scenic trail, and popular bicycling routes. In fact, the county bike map shows Rosario Road, Marine Drive, Campbell Lake Road as low traffic volume roads for bicycling. And that's what this blue line is an example of a bicycling route. And State Route 20 is called out as a regional bike route. I don't know, there aren't shoulders on most of these roads, and riding a bike with an 18-foot gravel truck just isn't too safe. And not to mention school buses and everything else that's now going on South Fidalgo with the residents. There's residential area out there. So this would be a gravel mine right next to residential area. One of the issues that were like hearings in front of the hearing examiner before he made his decision, as many as 80 people attended the Zoom sessions for public hearings, and many of those people testified at the hearings. The issues identified included the geohazardous area that's identified on the county map for potential for landslides. There's the traffic safety I mentioned. The traffic study that was done for by the permit applicants consultants was only done for right near the entrance to the gravel mine, Rosario Road and State Route 20. And that was a 2016 study, and a lot more people have moved to Whidbey Island Naval Air Station and our entire area. Also the parklands issue, the rural character of South Fidalgo, noise and dust, and the land use conflicts. So the hearing examiner decided to go ahead and issue the permit. We, Evergreen Islands, appealed this to the county commission because that's the next stage. That was our next recourse. When the hearing examiner approved the permit, and to go to the county commission, you have to have a finding, an error in fact. And so that what we argued was that the hazardous condition, the geologic hazardous condition wasn't fully examined, that there was no study down on groundwater, particularly to the north and west of the pit. And you can see Dodson Canyon there and those other pit-like structures. The geologist that Evergreen Islands hired, actually, he provided a report and testified and showed that these are groundwater-induced slope failures. So there are landslides to the west and northwest of this gravel pit, and groundwater would exacerbate that, yet there was no groundwater study done. So the county commissioners, on a vote of 3-0, remanded the hearing examiner's decision to approve the permit back to the hearing examiner. And we just heard today that the hearing examiner just sent a notification to the county planning department calling for a geologically hazardous area site assessment for the mine. So he's saying he wants to see a geologically hazardous area site assessment, and that there's most likely going to be a public hearing where the public can speak on those findings that are yet to come. So we'll keep you posted on that. And that's where we are with the Lake Erie gravel mine permit to expand, triple in size. What we also have on our plate with Evergreen Islands is we've been very vocal about the landfill, A Avenue landfill, and the need to clean it up. That's within the ACFL. It's the site that was proposed for a bicycle skills course. We're also very involved at the Anacortes Critical Area Ordinance. In fact, Evergreen Islands appealed the determination of non-significance, that is no environmental impact, probably no environmental impact. We appealed that, and the city has agreed to produce a third draft of the Critical Area Ordinance as it goes to the City Council. Anacortes Shoreline Master Program, that's being updated. And tomorrow night, it's before the Planning Commission. So if you're interested in that, jump on into that Zoom. Tonight, the Skagit County Shoreline Master Program is before the County Planning Commission. And with all these critical area updates and Shoreline Master Program updates and revisions, many of almost half of the board of Evergreen Islands has been taking courses this winter from the Department of Ecology on critical area ordinances, Shoreline Master Program, adaptive management, and monitoring. So we've been studying up so that we can be more effective in helping our both city and county as we move through these processes to improve our critical area ordinance and Shoreline Master Program. Also, if you didn't notice, the Copper Pond, that's that plan unit development up off Anacopper Road. The Department of Ecology is now considering the stormwater permit, and comment periods open until April 10th. So those are just a few things on our plate right now. And we don't do this work alone. We have many partners, including the Sierra Club, Mount Baker Chapter, Skagit Audubon, the Friends of the Forest, the Friends of the San Juans, Transition Fidalgo. We work with Sound Defense Alliance on the Navy growlers, increase in Navy growlers and noise. So we have a lot of partners we work with. What's next? We've talked with many people about working to protect our urban trees and forests. And the first step on doing this would be an inventory of our urban trees and an assessment. Evergreen Islands would really like to encourage the city of Anacortes to establish a citizen advisory committee, like many other cities have done in developing their tree ordinance. Evergreen Islands is also interested in improving our short-term rentals regulations for Anacortes. And we're also interested in working with partners in identifying important wildlife corridors throughout Fidalgo Island. We also want to work with more folks on Guimas and Samish Island and encourage board members and people to work with us to represent those areas towards that goal. So as I wind up, I want to ask you again, if you love it and you want to take care of it, what are you doing and what are the possibilities? Also, I wanted to include this in case you want to reach any of us. I know most of you probably know people on the Evergreen Islands board. You might be members yourself or want to become members. Here's some contact information. And that's all I had for the PowerPoint. And I'd love to hear from you and answer any questions.
Do you have this presentation available? Is it like a PDF or something?
I could.
That would
Sure.
be interesting to restudy that.
Okay. Any other questions?
Yeah. Okay. What I'm going to do now is let's wait a couple of minutes for questions. The reason being I wanted to have Deborah Lackenoff talk to us and kind of introduce herself and let us know what's going on a little bit with the legislature. Deborah, can you jump on here? I can't.
I can. I was just sorry for my lighting. Let me see if I can work on this. Sorry about that, Barb.
No, that's great.
Marlene, you completely took my breath away. The work and the expertise that you've had in presenting this was incredible. And I can say that because I have been in my last 20 years of working governmental affairs, natural resource environment has been my platform, and working through local, state, tribal, federal, international permitting. I applaud you. You were excellent and you gave us just the right information. One thing that you might look at, Marlene, is House Bill 1117 incorporates salmon recovery into the GMA comprehensive planning. So this won't fix the situation here today that we're working on, but what it will do is there are 38 counties plus a few cities are going to have to update their comprehensive plans. If you incorporate salmon recovery into your comprehensive planning, that means when you go to zone, when you go to build infrastructure, capital facilities, when you're going to permit these type of areas, you're going to have to, you would have looked at what the impact is going to be to salmon recovery within the area. And right away, the mining, the critical areas, the building of 10 homes, all of that would have come into play in the planning portion of your comprehensive plans. So in other words, if we're able to pass House Bill 117, this means that all of the counties and all of the cities that are having to update their comprehensive plans in the next 10 years are going to need to take salmon recovery into consideration as they do any type of zoning, water, infrastructure, capital facilities. And it also does an assessment on when you're doing these permittings. Why is it that we aren't able to, why is it that we've been using no net loss, which means no net loss means don't do any more to the environment than you already have when you purchase it and you're building upon it, or you as a capital facilities is going to build upon it. You're going to actually, through this bill, incorporate net ecological gain, which means if you get a piece of property, the city of Anacortes, and you're going to be building and using any type of infrastructure or capital facilities, or you're going to be zoning, or you're going to be building your area, you're going to look at those areas where you can incorporate net ecological gain, which is giving more habitat to the area than which you purchased from or which you're building upon. This means in your comprehensive plans, many of you my friends who are sitting with me, and let me put it in gallery view so I can see all your wonderful faces this evening. Let me spread that gallery out so I can see all, you guys are catching me in my running clothes. This means that as we start incorporating our comprehensive plans across the Skagit, across Island County, across Sangamon County, we've put agriculture and timber as a priority to protect as we start growing our areas that we call home. Now we're also incorporating salmon recovery into that. And it's quite simple. You know, you have a healthy salmon, that means you have clean water, you have clean habitat, you have healthy resources, your orcas are getting salmon, your economy, which is a lot of it, or environmental and natural resource based up here in the north, it means that you're going to have good, healthy, clean environment for people who want to come and take care of this place. This means if San Juan County wants to do the monument, we have to first make sure they have the water and the water infrastructure to be able to do that. This means if you're going to build in the Skagit County, that we're not going to build up the side of a mountain and put 300 homes out there and determine that we're going to dump in groundwater wells that are going to impact the in-stream flow, that is going to impact your salmon, which are an endangered species. And then you have 300 people who wanted to have a home, all of a sudden come to find out that they can't do it. This is pre-planning before you get into a lawsuit, before you get into permitting discrepancies, before you as a county or a city get in trouble. Like, we're trying to make sure that we're not paying a bunch of money in lawsuits and all that money is being used in the general fund for homelessness, for affordable housing, for good roads, for good infrastructure. We're doing pre-planning and doing smart thinking. So House Bill 117, Marlene, is something that I think the 40th could get behind and say, if we're going to grow Washington State and we're going to grow our cities and counties, we're going to grow it well. Because the clean, healthy salmon is clean, healthy everything. Hold on, Barb. I've got to go stir my dinner. Hold on.
I just want, while Deborah stepped out for a second, if anyone is interested in what's going on with the legislature, Deborah has a wonderful weekly update. And you can just get online, you know, Deborah Lackenoff, and you can get on her newsletter, and you'll get it once a week in your email. Just be aware her energy for environmental issues is phenomenal. She is doing a lot to address those issues on a state level. And her newsletter is very, very informative, particularly about those issues. And it sort of dovetails with what we're talking about tonight. So it's, it's great that she had the time to get on, because our representatives are super busy right now. So this is really good.
Well, it's great to see all of you guys, Barb. And if you guys have questions, I know, running through House Bill 117 actually is about pre-planning. It's about generational planning. And, Rita, you've heard me say this. Valette, you've heard me say this. I don't have my glasses on, so I'm trying to, Kareem, you've heard me say this. It's the pre-planning before that allows you to invest wisely and invest smartly. So it relieves your general fund for cities and counties to invest care of, which is homelessness, which is our infrastructure, which is making sure that we take care of smart planning for our communities, from Bellingham all the way through Skagit, all the way out to San Juan Islands. This is making sure we have money for behavioral health. This is money for early childhood education. This is general fund money for our elders' care. So that's a little bit of why I invest in the environment so much, because the pre-planning is going to save us generations down the road, so we can invest in those things that have been falling short. In the state legislature right now, I get to work with Alex Rammel, and I get to work with Liz Lovelet. Both of them are extraordinary leaders I've got to come to know. And sometimes it's like dating. You just got to get to know them, and amazing things happen. And these two colleagues of mine are doing great work down there. We just passed the Working Families Tax Credit. Oh my goodness, we are finally giving money back to those working families who are paying into taxes and being able to help them through this time. When Lisa Brown was the Senate Majority Leader, she passed this unfunded mandate. Oh my goodness, unfunded mandates. We're not going to go down that road. But the Working Family Tax Credit allows a percentage of the tax to go back into programs and back into those who are paying into the taxes. And this is not only migrant and undocumented, but this is also citizens of Washington State. We passed some of the strongest bills in the nation on police safety, but we did it smartly and we did it wisely. And it was a pleasure to have Mayor Bordeaux, Mayor Gear, all of your chief of police, all of your sheriffs, your prosecutors, all sitting at the table and saying, if we do this, Deborah, how do we do this? And how are we going to incorporate it and implement public safety in a way that honors the work that we've done in a rural community? What's happening in downtown Seattle and what's happening in downtown Tacoma is we know still situations that are happening up here in rural Skagit and in Whatcom County, and is happening even in the outskirts sometimes of San Juan Islands. But we're going to try to find a way to implement it, not on the backs of taxpayers, but we're going to do it right. We're going to do it well on the backs of providing training, providing services, providing the capacity, providing the reporting out of state funding, so it doesn't fall upon our cities and counties. So it's been an extraordinary week of funding early child care. We know that there are over, I believe, 6,000 child care facilities that are funded throughout Washington State. In Anacortes alone, you have 1,500 children under the age of 5 who need child care. And in Anacortes and the Skagit, we have demographics that show that we aren't people who are made of wealth. We are still middle class, day to day, want to invest in our homes and our communities. We are the ones who buy property tax. We're the ones who buy houses to pay property taxes. We are the ones who are the Little League football coaches. We're the ones who bake for bake sales. We're the ones who are sending our children to UW or to Washington State University. We're the backbone of our communities. So we want to make sure that when we invest in early child care development and early child care licensing, that we invest in those facilities that are going to take care of our children and build the next workforce of tomorrow. And if there does have to be training for licensing, and we are going to invest in funding for that, that our small caretakers of our children who have 5 or 6 children that they're watching in their own homes are being taken care of. So we've got some great work that we've been doing. I could go on and on, Barb. I was all excited to jump on with you guys. I'm pre-cooking all my meals for this week today because we've been on the floor for 2 weeks, and literally I got all the way down to canned Lipton chicken noodle soup. So just giggle at me and be home with me a little bit. I'm just a real person like you guys. Oh, you're on mute, Barb.
Yeah, I mentioned that people can get on your website and then get your newsletter, which I get every week. And it's just filled with what's going on. So hopefully people can keep up with some of the stuff that you're doing and some of the stuff that's going on, which is really terrific. So thank you for taking the time, and thank you for all that you're doing down in Olympia. It's really impressive.
And Marlene, if you need help, feel free to reach out to me. Barbara has all of my information, and I'm happy to help. You know, I'm a person who really is invested in growing our communities for the next generation. Barbara, you all raised my daughter Emma, who's 17. This year has been the toughest year for her. Like many of probably your nieces and your grandchildren, many of you know the kids have suffered. Their mental health, their social skills, their education, the quality of education that they had is just, it's tough to deal with. And we need as much help as we possibly can to have you guys remind us, hold us accountable for the decisions. If we're going to put our children in school, let's put them in school safety. If we're going to do House Bill 1152, where we're regionalizing healthcare and creating access to healthcare for rural communities, and taking a look at how we address COVID virus as a state based on healthcare and what we need to do better. I'm not one who shies away from taking criticism or saying you could be doing better. And it just makes me a better person. It makes me a better legislator. It makes me a better community member. So if there's something that you guys see that, hey, we need to do this, or we need to invest in that, or we're not investing enough in opioid addiction, we're not investing enough in homelessness, we're not paying enough attention to the 300 workers at the Sierra Pacific Timber who are jobs that matter to our community, tell me, because I got incredible staff with Kaylee. I have incredible colleagues with Alex and Liz. So.
Great. Thank you so much. All right, let's go back. Marlene, I have some other announcements, but I think I'd like to go back to the questions with you, Marlene, is if people have questions that they would like to ask Marlene, please raise your hand. And what you have to do is, I think Brad can help me out with a little bit, but at your bottom of the screen is a participant button. And when you click on that, you get a raised hand.
It's
And
actually
then
under
I can see.
It's actually under the reactions button at the very bottom there.
Okay. Oh, okay. I see that. I'm sorry, folks. Okay, I see that the reactions buttons, you can see there's a raised, the first one looks like a little raised hand.
And Valit
Is
has
that
his hand raised, Barb.
And Valit, okay, so everybody knows that you can press the reaction button and you can get a raised hands, and then it'll come up for me and I can then just call on somebody and they can unmute themselves. Okay, Valit looks like he is the first one to raise his hand. All right.
Thank you, Barbara. I appreciate it. Marlene, that was an excellent presentation, and Congresswoman Lekanoff, it's wonderful to have you. I appreciate all the details. Thank you very much. Marlene, and maybe Congresswoman Lekanoff can answer that. What has been the pushback as far as the economic impact and the potential job losses are concerned for the island? You know, everything you talked about is essentially in our backyard here. I live on Gibraltar Road, you know, hardly a stone throw away from all of the issues you talked about, both the development as well as the gravel pit. So anyway, if you could just care to comment on that, I would sure appreciate it. Thank you.
As far as the economic impact, what we have learned is the economic benefits of Deception Pass State Park. The most recent study was done in 2015 for the state parks, looking at the economic contributions. And Deception Pass State Park, it demonstrated $7.5 million in revenue related to recreation around Deception Pass State Park for Skagit County, 7.5 and 85 jobs. So these are parklands, and they not only contribute to our quality of life, in that way they're invaluable, right? And also, you know, to the functioning of the ecosystem, but they're also they also provide jobs and economic ripple effect in our economy.
Good. Okay. All right. And now I see Maggie has her hand raised. So are you unmuted, Maggie?
Yeah, Marlene, I have a question about the Lake Erie gravel mine.
Yes.
I wrote down some of the statistics, and one was 26 truckloads per day. Is
Yes.
there some sort of, is that for 60 years, or is that, what does that mean exactly?
It said as many as 26 truckloads per day. And
Okay.
it's really dependent on market demand and market conditions, how quickly they remove the gravel and how long that will probably play out. You know, it could play out sooner than 60 years, but my gosh, to issue a 60-year permit, that's a long time frame.
That is a long time. And also, has there been any feel about the people that live around in that area? We have friends that live quite near there. I'm going to be on the phone and ask them if they know about this and what they feel how it might be detrimental to them very personally.
Many of
They're
the
kind of uphill.
Yeah, many of the neighbors testified during the 2 public hearings and wrote letters. They got very engaged, and I know Jan Hill Robinson, who's on our board, is on here in the meeting with us tonight, and she could speak more about that if she'd like to, about the engagement of the South Fidalgo neighbors in this whole process. Many of them maintain they weren't notified, they weren't aware of it, and it caught them by surprise.
Thank you for your
Sure.
Your explanation.
I see Mary Ruth Holder is on.
Yes, Marlene, it may be that you haven't had a chance. I know that the hearings examiner this decision is just coming out today. And I haven't read it yet, so you may not have thoroughly studied it, but does he say, or do you know if there's going to be additional hearings on and evidence taken on the issues that he says he's going to look at?
Yes, he indicated that there'd be a public hearing where the public could speak on the results of the hazardous area, the geologically hazardous area site assessment. So we anticipate a chance to speak publicly at a hearing.
Okay, thanks.
Okay.
Sure.
Okay,
Jan has her hand up.
Yeah, Jan, you're next. You have your hand up here. Jan, can you hear me? Jan. Jan, if you can hear me, you need to unmute yourself so we can hear your questions. Okay, I'm not quite sure how to reach her.
She's not muted.
Oh, okay. Okay. I'll leave Jan there then, and we can go to Linda and come back to Jan. Maybe she stepped out for a minute. Okay, Linda Dobbs, I see. you
Yeah,
raised-
so, yeah, my name's Linda Dobbs and I live on Sunset Lane. So Sunset Lane is the lane that is most impacted by the gravel pit expansion. There are 15 homes on Sunset Lane and we are directly west of the expansion. And we are quite concerned about the impact of groundwater runoff with the expansion and have expressed that to the county. We feel like the SEPA that was done was completely inadequate and that we need a full environmental study to see the impact. We have already seen slope instability along Sunset Lane. And so any additional groundwater flow could be pretty devastating to Sunset Lane. So all of the 15 neighbors on Sunset Lane and the 3 or 4 neighbors to the south of us are opposed to the expansion.
Okay, good. Okay. So do you have a question or you just want to let everybody know what's going on, which is wonderful.
Yeah, that's good.
No, I don't have a question. I was responding to the person who wanted to know what the neighbors thought.
Okay, wonderful. Thank you, Linda. Thanks for being. Okay, Brad has got his hand up. Hi, Brad.
Hi there. Hi, Marlene. Thank you so much for being here and for doing the work you're doing at Evergreen. Can you give us a little bit of a feel for your impression of the quality of the service we're getting from the hearing examiner? And I realize, so it got kicked up to the commissioners, maybe the jury's still out on it, but sometimes the dynamic is such that they have to walk this through a certain process in order to end up in the right interest for everyone, which is obviously that we don't have particularly the gravel pit project going through. But are we getting decent service from these people, or is this clearly like an egregious breach of the trust of the public to represent our interest in maintaining a healthy environment? I don't have enough of a sense for the whole dynamicism that happens within the role of hearing examiner, but maybe you could bring some perspective to that.
Well, one way that I like to respond to that is it was disappointing to hear in the hearing examiner's decision. I don't have the language in front of me, but he said that the fact that it was already a mineral resource overlay pretty much determined the future of how, of how he would decide on the project, on the permit expansion, and that it was already a mine. And that, that's pretty broad brush, just to say mineral resource area was expanded and that's the way it's zoned. So that's, that was my impression.
So he could have brought a lot more backbone to the table relative to using his judiciary role to make sure that the right thing went down.
You would hope so, yes, especially with all the issues that were raised and how that South Fidalgo has changed since that was originally zoned. And the original, just because there's a 17-acre mine there today doesn't mean it needs to be tripled in size for over the next 60 years with all the changes that are taking place in South Fidalgo with the houses that were built and the activity on South Fidalgo with recreation and tourism and the rural community life.
Who
May I add to that?
Who were the hearing examiners that were involved in that process, Marlene?
It was Wick Dufford, one hearing examiner. And Jan knows a lot more about this case. She's on our board as well and lives on South Fidalgo, and she would like to respond.
I think it's really important to understand that this is not an active business. It's not an active mine. And Valit asked the question in his comment, does this impact jobs? And Marlene responded that it will impact the parklands and the effect of Deception Pass Park on Skagit County and Island County for that matter as well. But there's very little impact on Skagit County for a single driver that would be working at that site. So that there's no benefit to the county to have that site active. I also would like to add too that when we talk about 26 truckloads a day, that is the average that might happen over 60 years. But in the permit application that was approved by the hearings examiner, it is not limited to 26 truckloads per day. The amount would be subject to whatever the commercial demand is. So if indeed there's a demand for a big job, nobody buys 26 truckloads. They buy 100,000 tons or whatever they buy, but it's a very large number. It's not a small number of trucks that we have a truckload per day. And by that other point that it's not active, and that is that many neighbors have not seen it active at all, even 20 years, even living there 20 years. And so the hearings examiner looked at it as being a business, and even the county commissioners looked at it as being an active business. It is not.
Thanks, Jen. I did want to mention something about Evergreen. I assume that this is an open meeting before I call on Tom. Evergreen annual meeting is Thursday, March 18th. And it sounds like you're going to have Alex Rammel and Senator Liz Lovelet. And I was going to ask if people were interested in attending, would they just get on your website and it would be listed and they can just get in, or is it a closed meeting?
It's a members meeting, but if people contact me or anybody you know on the board with the interest in attending, we could let you in.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
No, because this is a pretty active group. I didn't know if anybody wants to join in and be part of the wonderful work that you're doing. So anyway, I'll move on now, but just be aware that Evergreen is a very, very busy organization. And Tom, you still have your hand raised. So Tom is the vice president, was the president for many years. So Tom, it's up to you now.
Yeah, so I would like to speak on in defense of Wick Dufford, who's the hearing examiner. And he was the hearing examiner for the Mount Erie clear cut. And so, when we appeal something, it has to have, legal grounds. And so for the clear cut, the applicant had, a lot of legal standing to go ahead and clear the property. It's his property, but so the one thing that we look at for SEPA, there's a whole list, or like 13 lists of elements of the environment, and one of them is aesthetics. And so we argued that the clear cut would harm the aesthetics of South Fidalgo, and that the hearing examiner, Mr. Dufford, agreed. And so he said he conditioned the property such that he could only do selective logging, and that he had to hide his house that he was going to build there from view from Lake Hamill Road. And so basically he tied the applicant's hands to the point where it wasn't financially rewarding enough for him to do it. So that land has not been clear cut, and he has his home there, and you cannot see it from the road. So I think that, and that I thought that was a far reach for us to win on aesthetics, but he listened to the community, and he actually went out and we showed lots of photos of the island there, and he actually went on his own and reviewed, the beauty of Fidalgo Island. So I appreciate him for that. We've had dealings with him many times here in the past, and he's always been fair, and he does what he can with the evidence that's presented to him, and for gravel mines. So we thank the commissioners for listening to the and our geo guy about the possibility of harm to the neighboring properties. So it's working out so far, the way it should. So that's all I had to say.
I'm still muted. Thank you so much. Appreciate your input. I have one thing another thing that has to do with environmental issues is the citizens of eBay's reserve they are in the process of, they've released an intent to sue. And this group was founded in 2012, and that's in response to the US Navy jet and warfare training in Northwest. So that's another group that's very active environmentally. And you can get on their website. It's Citizens of eBay, EBEYS Reserve, if you're interested in that issue as well. And there's just so many things going on, but I did want to share a couple of things that have come through my consciousness on and off. But I think those are kind of interesting things. And so it looks like I have, Brad, are you still raising your hand?
Yeah, I put my hand up again. Marlene,
Okay.
is there I'm on your website trying to find an email or a way to get an invitation to the upcoming meeting. And I wonder, maybe you could share an email and chat to everyone, or some way that we could subscribe to your mailing list and connect with you guys, because the website's not revealing that to me.
Oh, okay. Marlene or Tom or any of the other board members, can you help out there?
I can type it into chat if you tell me what it is.
I'm typing it
Okay,
in.
well, Marlene is typing. Are there any other questions? I don't see any more raised hands, so I wanted to ask if anyone is interested in or has any other questions. Oh, okay, Carol. Oh, good. Carol Sullivan may have a question, and also she can tell us a little bit about what's going on with the League of Women Voters, which seems to be another group.
I just have kudos for Marlene. It was really interesting. I learned so much about Evergreen Islands and appreciate your time and effort that you've put into the presentation and all the work that you and your board and others have done. And I just wanted to put in a little plug for the Washington League of Women Voters Speak Up School series that includes Redistricting 101 Basics, Data Lenses, and Dave's Redistricting app, which teach about the criteria that the Redistricting Commission will use to redraw the lines, all the things they have to consider. And then the Speak Up schools themselves. All of these things are happening this month and next. They are to educate and prepare Washington residents for written or oral testimony at the Redistricting Commission public hearings, which are going to be held later this year. They're all free and open to the public. They do not require membership in the League of Women Voters. And I put in the chat the League of Women Voters Washington website, so you can look for information if you're interested. It's a once in a decade opportunity to impact how our lines are drawn for the next 10 years. Thanks, Barbara.
Okay, thanks, Carol. Thanks for all you do as well. You're amazing. I get emails from her and I just get tired reading the emails. Anyway, anybody else have anything they'd like to ask or share? There's one other thing, just a general thing about, there's the Skagit Democrats, as we all know. And again, they are very active, doing a lot of, covering a lot of issues. They're doing a lot of training. Lynn Campbell is the chair of that group. And so again, if anyone is interested in finding out what the Skagit Democrats, again, just type in their name, skagitdemocrats.org, and you'll get a list of many things. And then if you want to, you can get their newsletter as well, which is just filled with wonderful information. So anyway, there's a lot going on, as you can see, lots of different groups, and a lot of them seem to, using my hands to show the convergence. It isn't like we're going in opposite directions. You know, there's a lot of overlap, so that's wonderful. Anything else that anybody, any other questions for Marlene? Okay, so I want to thank Marlene. Thank you. It was a wonderful presentation, very, very clear, very concise. It was excellent. Thank you.
Very
Thank you.
nice.
Yeah, I mean, learned a lot, and I'm so amazed at what Evergreen has done over the many, many years and what they can continue to do. So thank you all, and all of you who are here from the board, thank you as well. I also want to thank Brad, as always. Excuse me, Brad is is our host, makes everything go so well. And for me, without Brad, it would be absolutely impossible. My stress level is down to almost nothing because of his help with the Zoom stuff. So thank you, Brad.
Well, it's my pleasure to help you guys anytime.
Oh, it's wonderful. And I'm not making that up. Just the thought of having to do this would make me insane. So it's much nicer that I'm not crazy. And Zane is going to, Zane Butler will do the YouTube. We'll send that out. Brad sends him the recording and then he sends it out, and Rita will send you the link to that. And so if you have a friend or know somebody who would like to have this information but missed the meeting, please feel free to pass that on. Again, thank you, Deborah, for coming on, and thank you all for participating.